Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om Om Sadashiva Samarambham Vyasa Shankara Madhyamam Asmadacharya Pariyantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpada Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Om Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yad krupatamaham vande paramananda madhavam yam brahma varunendra rudra marutaha stunvanti divyaistavaihi vedai sangapadakramopanishadai Gayantiyam samaga Dhyanavasthita tadgatena manasa Pashyantiyam yogino Yasyantam na vidussura suragana Devaya tasmai namaha Om Shri Paramatmane namaha Atma Samyama Yogo Nama Shashtodhyaya The Ashtanga Yoga is followed closely by Krishna in this 6th chapter. And earlier we saw what is Samadhi. Here the Nirvikalpaka Samadhi, natural, spontaneous mental absorption is Nirvikalpaka Samadhi, and which is the culmination of, which is the result, the end result of practicing Ashtanga Yoga. So the mind remaining absorbed in the object of meditation. And if this mental absorption is natural here, the natural means there's no will involved here. There's no deliberation here. So this is spontaneity. So the spontaneous mental absorption is Nirvikalpaka Samadhi. If the will is involved, then it is Savikalpaka Samadhi. So we can say the practice of this Ashtanga Yoga should culminate in the Nirvikalpaka Samadhi. Therefore we can say this Nirvikalpaka Samadhi is the Angi for which these 8-fold limbs, 8 steps become the Angani. Why they are Angani? Because they should culminate in that. So this is the difference between Savikalpaka Samadhi and Nirvikalpaka Samadhi. So Nirvikalpaka Samadhi again is a, what is Nirvikalpaka Samadhi here? Mental absorption. The spontaneous mental absorption means constant, continuous, unbroken flow of similar thoughts dealing with Atma Swarupam to the exclusion of dissimilar thoughts. So you can say Vijatiya Pratyaya Anantarita Sajatiya Pratyaya Pravahaha. So Vijatiya Pratyaya Anantarita Sajatiya Pratyaya Pravahaha. So the flow of similar thoughts dealing with Atma Swarupam. If the object of meditation is anything other than the Atma Swarupam, nature of one's own self, then that Nirvikalpa Samadhi or Savikalpaka Samadhi will be an experience which is time-bound experience, a state of mind. If the object of meditation is the very subject, Swarupam of the subject, Atma, then that is Jnana Nishtha. How Nirvikalpaka Samadhi also, how when it is Jnana Nishtha, when it is an experience, a state of mind. Nirvikalpaka Samadhi, no, the object of meditation is anything other than the Atma, then the Samadhi one goes through, one has, is what now mental absorption may be there in the object of meditation, but still that is a state of mind which is an experience, because the object which is, the mind is absorbed in is time-bound object. Therefore, a state of mind which is an experience which is subject to change. Even the Samadhi is subject to change. But if the object of meditation is the Atma Swarupam, then the Samadhi, Nirvikalpaka Samadhi is what? Jnana Nishtha. This is very, very important. Now, we only make use of the steps, Ashtanga Yoga, for our Jnana Nishtha, by changing the object of meditation from any object to the merely, purely Atma Swarupam. That is why it is very important for one to have the knowledge of the Atma. So without having the knowledge of the Atma, there is no such a thing called contemplation, nididhyasanam are possible here. So Atma Jnanam, so nididhyasanam, this meditation, Vedantic meditation will not give us the Atma Jnanam. That is very clear. Shravanam alone will give Atma Jnanam. Therefore, one must have done Shravanam before to have the knowledge of the Atma. Thereby one will know what Atma is, to be able to focus on the Atma Swarupam, to retain the attention on the Atma Swarupam, then to be absorbed in the Atma Swarupam. Therefore, non-Vedantic student cannot have the Jnanam, and non-Vedantic student cannot be a meditator upon the Atma. So definitely whoever is practicing Nidhyasanam must have understood Atma Swarupam, and for understanding the Atma Swarupam, one must have definitely done the Shravanam. That's also very, very important here to understand. Now here, in these verses, Krishna is going to say, from this, in in 18th and 19th, in all these verses, he started discussing he's presenting the Dhyana Swarupam, the process of meditation. And now, having made very clear what is the process of meditation, and this verse onwards, the 20th verse onwards, which I already started doing in the last class, from this verse onwards, he is making it very clear what exactly is Nirvikalpaka Samadhi. What is Jnana Nishtha? Okay? For a Vedantic, for the person who practices Vedantic meditation, who practices Nididhyasanam, for whom the object of meditation is the Atma Swarupa, one's own real nature. So what is the Nirvikalpaka Samadhi? What is this absorption? So here, this Samadhi is presented here, and he presents actually the 7 different features of the Samadhi. He takes and presents them as the 7 definitions of Samadhi from different angles. How to understand what is being absorbed in Atma Swarupam? What is Nirvikalpaka Samadhi? Suppose somebody has to define what is Nirvikalpaka Samadhi, which is the culmination of the practice of the Ashtanga Yoga, and wherein the object of meditation is Atma Swarupam. What is Atma Nirvikalpaka Samadhi? So he defines the Nirvikalpaka Samadhi. So as though he's giving us here the 7 definitions, as the 7 features, from different angles. Okay? And that begins from where? From this 20th verse. 20th to the 23rd verse. In these verses, 4 verses, now he gives 7, mentions the 7 features as 7 definitions of the Nirvikalpaka Samadhi. Let's read the verse now. Yatro paramate chittam, yatro paramate chittam, niruddham yoga sevaya, niruddham yoga sevaya, yatra chaivatmanatmanam, yatra chaivatmanatmanam, Pashyannatmani tushyati, Pashyannatmani tushyati, Yatro paramate chittam, Yatro paramate chittam, Niruddham yoga sevaya, Niruddham yoga sevaya, Yatra chaivatmanatmanam, Yatra chaivatmanatmanam, Pashyannatmani tushyati, Pashyannatmani tushyati. See, what happens in Nirvikalpaka Samadhi? What do we mean by Nirvikalpaka Samadhi? Now, the feature is given here as a definition. Look at this. First he says, Yatra uparamate. Now, uparamate. This mind now abides, remains absorbed. So, you can say the uparamate, from that verb we can take a noun, understand the noun here. Uparamate is a verb, and what is the noun form we get there? Uparatihi. Uparatihi is a feminine word. Uparamanam is a neuter gender word. Uparamaha is a masculine word. We can say Uparamaha, Uparamanam or Uparatihi. All three words mean the same. Okay. So Uparatihi, let us take it as Uparatihi here. Uparatihi means what? Tranquility. Okay, absolute tranquility. Absolute tranquility means the absolute relaxation of the mind is what here? Uparatihi. So this absolute tranquility of the mind means this is the, in Samadhi what happens? This absolute tranquility of the mind. When does the mind become absolutely tranquil? Isn't it? He says, when the mind is well disciplined. So the absorbed mind, the mind remains absorbed in Atma Swarupam. And there is the absolute tranquility of the mind, which means the mind is well restrained, well disciplined, well mastered here. That she got a chittam niruddham, isn't it? This, which is that mind which enjoys uparatihi, which is that mind which becomes absolutely tranquil here, he said niruddham chittam. So niruddham again means well restrained, well mastered, well disciplined mind is what, which is that mind? A mind which is completely withdrawn, a mind which is totally withdrawn from all the objects, all other objects, anatma prapancha. We ask, what is that mind? Which is that mind which is completely well restrained mind, well disciplined, mastered mind? In the context of meditation, if you ask, the well niruddham chittam, well restrained, well controlled, well disciplined, well mastered a mind is the mind which is completely withdrawn from the entire anatma prapancha. When the mind is withdrawn from the anatma prapancha means what? Anatma prapancha means when the mind is absorbed in the Atma Swarupam, it is withdrawn from the entire anatma prapancha means all the different, the personalities, which are invoked when the different role plays are identified with. If whenever we identify ourselves with the different role plays, our different personalities, our own personalities are invoked. And when the different personalities are invoked, what happened? Then the worries and the things associated with the roles will be disturbing us. And here what happens? Those disturbances are not there. Why disturbances are not there? Because the association is not, the disturbances, the problems are associated only with the roles. Now the mind has been withdrawn from the all the roles. All the roles. Because at least during meditation, definitely you do not see yourself as any role you play. Isn't it? Definitely I am there because you dwell upon your own Atma Swarupam, your own nature, which is revealed by the words of the Shastra and unfolded by your teacher. Isn't it? Which means during Shravanam. So the words of Vedantic words reveal your Swarupam, and which and then the Swarupam revealed by the words of the Shastra, become very clear when they are unfolded by the teacher during the Shravanam. So that when you are dwelling upon that Atma Swarupam, which means you are reliving the Shravanam. Reliving the Shravanam means what? Actually, you have stored, you have already understood the Swarupam through Shravanam, which you already have it. That's why in class, the Shravanam is like what? Recording, registering what the teacher, when the teacher is unfolding the words of the Shastram, wherein Atma Swarupam is revealed, then during the class Shravanam, you record, register, understand what is being said in the class. Then in Nididhyasanam, you are not recording, you are replaying what you have already heard and collected in your mind. Recollection, or replaying of what you have already understood is what? Reliving the Shravanam. So in reliving the Shravanam, in recollecting what you have already heard, understood and retained in your mind, isn't it? Become assimilated. Becomes assimilated here. Therefore, here that is why reliving means you withdraw your attention from all the different the roles you play. Therefore, when the roles are associated with, inevitably, choicelessly, every role will be connected with some problem or the other, some limitations or the other, because there cannot be a role which is completely devoid of problems and situations. So here, dissociate cognitively from the roles and identify yourself with what? Only the Swarupam, Atma Swarupam. That is Aham, Atma. All pervasive reality, the consciousness. Therefore, this is what now? Well-disciplined mind. Means what? The mind completely withdrawn from Anatma. Mind being dissociated from Anatma means what? Here completely free from all the roles also. Isn't it? Therefore, that well-disciplined mind alone with what now? And how does that mind, how is it possible for that mind to become disciplined? Yoga Sevaya. Yoga Seva here means what? The practice of Antaranga Bahiranga Sadhanani. So through the practice of Antaranga Bahiranga Sadhanani, by following those disciplines, the 5 disciplines of the Ashtanga Yoga, Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara. Okay? They are actually the 5 disciplines, 5 steps of the Ashtanga Yoga alone are meant by the word yoga here. So Yoga Sevaya Niruddham. The mind becomes disciplined, well restrained, qualified for contemplation. Why? Because of the practice of the other disciplines. Antaranga Bahiranga Sadhanani, we can include also what? Which implies living a life of Karma Yoga also. By living a conscious life also, then it is possible for the mind to know, because Shravanam gives the knowledge. Shravanam gives the knowledge. But afterwards, for the knowledge to become effective, now you need to dwell upon the teaching. Whereas the mind is indisciplined means the attention is not available for dwelling. It goes for everything else. The ignorant person's mind also goes to other things. The person who knows the truth also, his mind also goes to different objects. Whereas here, because Yoga Sevaya means what? That's why the discipline, what is that which helps a person to become adequately disciplined, to be able to focus, retain and to remain absorbed. That is Yoga Seva. So living a life of Karma Yoga, a righteous life, a living an ethical life, and also what? Practice of Yama Niyama, Antaranga Bahiranga Sadhanani, through the practice of these things, when the mind is well disciplined, then that mind is able to focus, then that mind can be retained and focused, and that mind alone remains absorbed. Then what happens then? When the mind remains absorbed in Atma Swarupam, there is no disturbance, which means then there is absolute tranquility. So here this absolute tranquility or the mental relaxation, it is not relative relaxation but absolute relaxation. When you practice meditation upon any other object, anything other than the Atma also, there is mental relaxation, and that relaxation is temporary relative relaxation, isn't it? But here, when the object of meditation being the very Atma, the relaxation that mind has is what? Absolute total relaxation, tranquility. That is what is meant by the word here, uparatihi. Chittasya uparatihi. Chittasya uparamaha. Chittasya uparamanam. Chitta uparatihi. And the chitta uparatihi is because of what? Because chitta means niruddham, isn't it? So niruddham does not mean obstructed. It also literally means obstructed. Okay? Here the disciplined, withdrawn mind. The mind withdrawn from anatma, all the different role plays, different personalities, now focused in the Atma. On the Atma alone remains retained and remains absorbed. Then there is absolute relaxation, which is non-disturbed, with the relaxation, the tranquility which cannot be disturbed. That is why we say it is absolute relaxation. If the relaxed mind, relaxation of the mind, the tranquility of the mind can be disturbed, means it is relative. Whereas this mind, the absolute relaxation which the mind has because of the absorption of Atma Swarupam cannot be disturbed. That's why it's called absolute. Understand now? And that is says, therefore, this okay says, so chittasya uparamaha, chitta uparatihi uparamaha or uparamanam is what we can say, first definition of absolute tranquility or serenity of the mind can be said to be the definition number 1. The same way, see the next. Yatra chaivatmanatmanam pashyan atmani tushyati. The second definition, we can say, is given the second line. Atmanam pashyan atmani tushyati. Atmanam atmana atmani pashyan tushyati. So here he says, we can say tushtihi. Tushtihi means what? Tushyati is a verb. To get the definition, we have to convert the verbs into nouns. So tushtihi, we can say santushtihi or toshaha, not doshaha. Okay, be careful. Tosha, first taha. Toshaha or tushtihi, with the prefix is what? Santushtihi or santoshaha. So tushtihi here means what? Toshaha, tushtihi means contentment, isn't it? Fulfillment, contentment. Tushtihi, niraivu. Okay? Oru tripti. So that contentment, tushyati, which means we can say, otherwise we can say, and how does this tushtihi, the contentment, this is not contentment like anything else. Here, Atma Darshanam. Atma Darshanam. So seeing the Atma, reveling the vision of the Atma is what Atma Darshanam is the second definition of the samadhi. So when the mind becomes silent, calm, disturbance-free mind, and the mind is withdrawn, mind is now calm, serene. The serene, disturbance-free, agitation-free mind, quiet mind. The quiet mind means what? Quiet mind, what should it do? Quiet mind should see the Atma Swarupam. So having the quiet mind is not the aim for us. Having the quiet mind is for seeing the Atma. Seeing the Atma means what? Seeing means dwelling upon the Swarupam of the Atma revealed by the words of the Shastram, is it? As unfolded by the teacher. That's called Atma Darshanam. Atma Darshanam. So this, where does one see this? Atmani. So the Atmani, the locative is what now? In one's own mind. In one's own mind, one has the vision of the Atma Swarupam. It was now the Swarupam of one's real nature, being, consciousness. Definitely one sees one Swarupam being consciousness, which means doubt, there's no doubt. Which means definitely I am not anything else, isn't it? I am not the manahana, buddhihina, chittamna, ahankarahana. No, I am not even the knowledge I am. I am not the mind, I am not the buddhi, intellect, I am not the memory, I am not even the knowledge I am. I am na ahankaraha, isn't it? Mano buddha ahankara chittani naham. No? Then I don't need to say aham na. So if I am not there, then I am consciousness, isn't it? That consciousness, and which is of the nature of fullness. So seeing the meaning of the words, revealing the nature of the Atma, unfolded by the teacher in the class during Shravanam, dwelling upon that, isn't it? Is what now? Atma Darshanam. Which means the quiet mind is not a thoughtless mind here. A quiet, calm, serene mind with thoughts dealing with Atma Swarupam. Is what now? It's called Atma Darshanam. Big difference. That's why in the very beginning I said, if the object of meditation is anything other than the Atma, then Samadhi, Nirvikalpaka Samadhi, is what? A state of mind and experience, time-bound experience. If the object of meditation is the very Atma Swarupam, then Nirvikalpaka Samadhi is Jnana Nishtha. That's why here, when we say here, Atma Darshanam means what? Seeing the Swarupam of the Atma. Atma Darshanam. How? With the quiet mind. Because the well-disciplined mind, when being focused and being retained and abiding in one's own Swarupam means what? Dwelling upon the Swarupam of the Atma as revealed by the words of the Shastram, as unfolded by the teacher is what? Seeing the Atma, not as an object, as one Swarupam. Seeing the consciousness being one's real nature. Atma Darshanam. One has how Atmanam Pashyati. Atmanam Pashyan. How? With the help of the mind, isn't it? How? With the help of the mind, where do you entertain the thoughts of the Atma? Entertaining the thoughts dealing with the Atma alone you have. That's why Atmana, Atmani, Atmanam pashyati. Then what happens? Tushyati. What is the consequence? What is the result of, isn't it, seeing the Atma or having the vision of the Atma? That is tushtihi. Tushtihi toshaha is what now? Absolute contentment. It is not the contentment born of some laziness. Everything is okay, but here contentment born of the absolute contentment, born of the one's own self being, the consciousness, and which is of the nature of fullness, limitlessness, isn't it? So here, yatra cha eva atmana atmanam pashyan atmani tushyati. See, for one to enjoy the benefit of that Atma Darshanam, how does this dwelling upon the Atma Swarupam now results in that everlasting happiness? If you understand this, see what happens. The example can be given here. On full moon days, on a full moon day, the full moon is there during the day as well as during the night. All the stars are also there during the day. Stars are there or not? The stars are always there. But what happens when these stars and the full moon are completely overpowered by the bright light of the sun? They are there, but they are not prominent. They are not prominent. They are as good as non-existent. But when the slowly, gradually, as the day, isn't it? As the light, daylight becomes dimmer, the more and more dim, as it gets more and more dim, then what happens? The moon becomes more and more prominent. The stars become more and more prominent. They don't come suddenly. They're already there. They're more and more prominent. See, and then as it becomes completely dark, completely when the light is not there, then all this, the moon, without you making any effort, you can understand on a full moon day, the moon is so prominent, very well visible, isn't it? The stars are so visible. In the same way, here what happens, when the more and more we dwell upon the Swarupam of the Atma, there's a gradation also. How focused I am, how I try to dwell upon, the more intensely, isn't it, more seriously I practice this, the more, the quality, qualitatively, quantitatively, the more I can focus. Then what happens in Samadhi, actually, it's like even my Atma Swarupam becomes, my vision becomes what now? Gets stronger. It becomes prominent. Here, all the problems associated with the roles, etc. Now they are like what now? They are like, the bright light, making the stars and moon non-prominent because of the association, isn't it? So here you can say, even Swamiji gives another example, beautiful example. When there is a clock, the clock is ticking, always continuously tick, 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 tick. There's a tick is there always. But the ticking sound of the clock is not even heard when there's so much of disturbance. The whole day, during the daytime, so much of disturbance is there. It is there, but it is not even heard. It's not even recognizable. But what happens when it gets dark, when everything becomes silent, the whole day goes over. When we go to the bed, when you're in the bedroom, even turn the lights off, then tick, 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 tick is heard. Now the same ticking sound was there during the daytime. It's there in the night also. But when everything becomes silent, the ticking sound becomes prominent. It was not there before. It was there before. But when does it become prominent? Only when the other noises all resolve. Similarly, all these noises are here, what here? All the associations with the anatma, isn't it? All the disturbances and problems and worries associated with the anatma make this knowledge non-prominent. In nididhyasanam, you have withdrawn, attention is withdrawn from everything else. So that the noises, other disturbances are not there. It's like the bright light there's no bright light of disturbance which can overpower this, which is not there. Therefore, just as the ticking becomes prominent when the other disturbances are not there, so also when the withdrawn attention, attention is withdrawn, focused here, other disturbances are not there, this jnanam is already there. Because through Shravanam you already got the jnanam, it doesn't become prominent. And in nididhyasana, what happens? Now, because the mind is not available for anything else, there's no disturbance there. Here, it becomes clearer. It's called stronger, isn't it? And the gradation is in keeping with the gradation. The more I'm not disturbed by other things, the more I'm able to focus, the more I'm able to retain, the more I'm able to dwell upon, the more I do Shravanam also, isn't it? The more I can retain my attention in this Swarupam, the more I dwell upon here, the more I can remain absorbed. The more and more I remain absorbed, what happens? Then it becomes ascertained. Look about now, Atma Darshanam. So, in fact, Atma Darshanam means, actually speaking, just being seated with oneself. Just being one's own self. Tana irthal is what? Atma Darshanam. Is being oneself, one's own self. Seeing one's own Swarupam, is it? Just being oneself, one's own self. That happens where? In one's own mind, isn't it? Which means there is objectivity possible. As a result of which, then what is there? That tushyati. There is toshaha, absolute satisfaction. So we can say, this Atma Darshana Dwara Santoshaha, the absolute satisfaction born of just being one's own self, being seated with oneself. This is the definition number 2 here. It's very nice thing to know, isn't it? How, even though the full moon is there the whole day, the night it becomes prominent. The daytime it is not prominent because it is overpowered by the daylight. Similarly here, even though the Shravana Dwara, during Shravana I have attained in Jnanam, Jnanam is there, but doesn't become prominent because it is overpowered by the ahankara associated with other, the problem associated with the roles. In contemplation, what happens is mind is withdrawn from the roles. Definitely withdrawn from the roles. Definitely, am I a father? Am I a mother? Am I this? You should remember that, yes, this is an incidental role I play, but I am not the role. I am a consciousness, a conscious being, temporarily, incidentally playing this role, having this human experience. Isn't it? Then that understanding alone gives rise to tushtihi toshaha. It's the next one now. Sukhamatyantikam yattad Sukhamatyantikam yattad Buddhigrahyamatīndriyam Buddhigrahyamatīndriyam Veti yatra na chaivayam Veti yatra na chaivayam Sthitas-chalati tattvataha Sthitas-chalati tattvataha Sukhamatyantikam yattad Sukhamatyantikam yattad Buddhigrahyamatīndriyam Buddhigrahyamatīndriyam Veti yatra na chaivayam Veti yatra na chaivayam Sthitas-chalati tattvataha Sthitas-chalati tattvataha. Next one he says here, this person who remains absorbed, whose mind is absorbed in the Atma Swarupam, he knows, Veti, recognizes. The Veti, this verb is very important. Why? Because Krishna even forgetfully does not say he experiences. He knows. He recognizes. What does he recognize? Atyantikam sukham. Therefore, the third feature presented as the third definition is what? Atyantikam sukham. Like how chitta uparatihi, then atma darshanam are the two features given as two definitions of the samadhi, mental absorption. Now the third definition is what here? Atyantikam sukham. Here we can understand the yogi, the meditator, the person who practices meditation naturally remains absorbed, has the samadhi, remains absorbed in the vision of the Atma, absorbed in Atma Swarupam. And that person, he says what now? He recognizes, isn't it? Veti, what now? Atyantikam sukham. Atyantikam sukham means what now? The beginningless, endless, timeless, everlasting, non-arriving, non-departing happiness. Isn't it? Atyantikam sukham means what? It is not a time-bound pleasure. A pleasure is time-bound. Why? Because it arrives, it is there for some time and it goes. Therefore, this Atyantikam sukham is what? Non-arriving, non-departing, non-dependent, isn't it? Swarupam. A very intrinsic nature, very Swarupam of the consciousness. The Atma is what? This is Atyantikam Sukham. And he says, it's Atyantikam Sukham. Here the meditator has this. And this is Yad Tad Buddhi Grahyam. Buddhi Grahyam is what? This fullness, this limitlessness, this person which he has, this fullness is happiness, the limitless happiness which this person recognizes is what? Is born of knowledge. Born of knowledge. Knowledge of one's own Swarupam. Born of knowledge of the Atma. Because if you know the fire, definitely you recognize what? If you know the fire, you recognize the heat being inseparable, intrinsic nature of the fire. Don't know separate afterwards. So here, knowing, one recognizing one's own Swarupam is what? Being consciousness is recognizing the one Swarupam being the happiness also. Atyantikam Sukham. But this is born of the knowledge. This is Buddhi Grahyam. Buddhi Grahyam Atyantikam Sukham. Why? Because it is different from what? Atindriyam. It is different from, is completely different from sense pleasure. The pleasure born of the enjoyment of sense any object. The pleasure born of the enjoyment of a sense object, a sense pleasure, is what? Time bound. Because if any object is time bound, any object of enjoyment is time bound. There is no such a thing called permanent, eternal, everlasting object of enjoyment. Therefore, any pleasure born of the enjoyment of object also will be what? Time bound. That's why he says Ati Indriyam. Ati Indriyam means this Atyantikam Sukham, which is beyond, which is different from the experiential time bound pleasure. And because it's born of the understanding, knowledge born of knowledge. Knowledge of what? The fact, isn't it? Here, it will not go. Like how water is H2O. Water is H2O means what? Which is a fact. This knowledge, isn't it? The fact is what? A knowledge. Water is H2O. 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. This is a knowledge. And this knowledge, this fact, can anything, any object in the world or experience in the world replace this? Isn't it? So time cannot replace the fact. Time cannot replace the fact in the form of knowledge. Or displace it also. Isn't it? So nothing in the world, no object, no experience can displace a fact in the form of knowledge. The 2 plus 2 will not change. I am very happy, then also is what? 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. So water is H2O. Whether I am happy or not, water is H2O. I am very unhappy. Water is H2O. I am very happy. Water is H2O. Which means the fact obtaining in the form of knowledge cannot be displaced by my likes and dislikes, or by my different experiences, or the objects, or even by time. Therefore here what happens now, this is Buddhi Grahyam. Means what now? This knowledge is born of the knowledge. Knowledge of the Swarupam. Therefore what is the Swarupam here? Atma is of the nature of happiness, the fullness. Buddhi Grahyam. Therefore, that Sukham, Atyantikam Sukham, Buddhi Grahyam, Atindriyam. Here you have to understand the difference between this atindriyam. Indriyam means what? The pleasure born of the enjoyment of sense objects through the senses is indriyam sukham. Indriya sukham. This is not indriya sukham. Buddhigrahyam atindriyam adyantikam sukham. It is born of the knowledge. And here this is, happiness is fullness, whereas that is time-bound pleasure. Here Shastram says, what is pleasure? We have to understand here, what is pleasure? It is beautifully defined. To differentiate the happiness being expression of fullness, we have to understand what is pleasure. See, pleasure is nothing but a state of mind. And a state of mind means what? A state of mind which you have whenever you forget yourself. Whenever you forget yourself means what? Whenever the sense of smallness, sense of inadequacy, sense of this small insecurity centered on I is forgotten. Especially sense of smallness centered on I is forgotten, not triggered. When it is not triggered, whenever you forget yourself. When do you forget yourself? Whenever your attention is completely held by an object of enjoyment. You're totally engrossed in the enjoyment of an object. Then the object holds attention totally, that you forget yourself. When you forget yourself, the smallness centered on I is forgotten, not triggered. Therefore, the state of mind you have is what? Pleasure. A painless state is pleasure. Isn't it? When there is no pain, when the smallness sense of smallness is not triggered, which means anything which triggers the sense of smallness centered on I is what? When is the pain? When there is the sense of smallness is triggered, there is pain. That is why anything which triggers the sense of smallness, because what? Object are hated also. Anyway, that's not our thing here. What I want to say here, the pleasure is actually state of mind which obtains only when one forgets oneself. The sense of smallness and I is not triggered. And therefore, that object which helps you holding attention, which helps you forget yourself, becomes what? Mistaken for the source of pleasure, that becomes object of desire also. This is pleasure. Understand? Whereas, what Shastram says is, Adyantikam Sukha means, this is not born of any enjoyment of the object. This is born of the understanding of the Swarupam of the Atma being free from all limitations. Isn't it? That is why Buddhi Grahyam Sukham. Atma being free from all limitations and smallness. Isn't it? That's why Buddhi Grahyam Atindriyam Sukham, Adyantikam Sukham. And this Sukham, when the person understands Veti. Veti means what? Here Veti, when this person takes ownership of one's own Swarupam being fullness, happiness. What happens there? Yatra cha eva ayam sthitaha tattvataha na chalati. Understand? Tattvataha na chalati. So, Atyantikam Sukham is what? One of the features which defines the Samadhi. Now, next he says, Tattvataha na chalati. Tattvataha na chalati means Tattvataha nischalanam is the next feature, next definition. Or you can say Tattva nishtha. Tattvataha nischalanam means this person does not deviate from, this person's attention does not deviate from the truth. Something very important I have to tell you here. Who's this person who has the vision of the Swarupam, whose mind remains absorbed in the Atma Swarupam, thereby who has understood the Swarupam of the Atma being happiness also, who has taken ownership of his Swarupam being happiness, one who revels in that, in the knowledge of Swarupam being happiness, and this person's mind tattvataha na chalati. It remains, means he does not, attention does not deviate from the truth. Na chalati. It's called what in the second chapter it is said, sthita prajnaha. The person who said to be what now? Sthita prajna. It's called sthita prajna, firm, ascertained vision. It's called what? Tattvataha na chalati. It does not deviate from the truth. Does not deviate from the truth. Which means he remains absorbed, means what? In this context, we have to remember, this person has the luxury of, the greatest luxury of reveling in knowledge. I tell you a very important thing. The person whose mind remains absorbed in one's own Swarupam, and he has the he has taken ownership of the happiness as a Swarupam. There is no, he has the best of the luxury. He has the luxury of reveling in knowledge, reveling in wisdom, has the luxury of reveling in fullness, which has taken ownership as a result of knowledge of Swarupam. Which means this, he has the luxury, means afterwards. Tattvataha na chalati means, what does it mean? He does not deviate from the truth. Samadhi means what? Does not deviate from the truth means what? He remains in like this or what? Firm. No. Tattvataha na chalati means the mind does not deviate from the truth, means this, for this person afterwards, nothing in the world becomes excitement. Nothing in the world can excite him. It can be a source of excitement. Nothing in the world can make this person unhappy. Nothing in the world can make him happy. Nothing in the world can excite him. There's no excitement at all for this person. Why? Self is the only excitement. What is the only thing which excites you? We ask here, there's nothing more exciting than myself. For a wise person, there's nothing more exciting than one's own self. Therefore, the person who remains rooted in the vision of the Atma Swarupam, there's no exciting thing for him. For him, any situation is a luxury for him. There's nothing which can make him unhappy, nothing can upset him. Any setup will be okay for him, nothing will upset him, which means there is luxury. Why? What is luxury for him? Reveling in knowledge is the luxury. That is, there's no greater luxury than reveling in knowledge, reveling in the vision of fullness, being his own Swarupam. In fact, suppose luxury, what is luxury? If you understand what is luxury, it will become very clear. See, luxury is something which can be thoroughly enjoyed when it is available, without any hesitation. Something when it is available, without any hesitation, inhibition, thoroughly it can be enjoyed. At the same time, when it is not available also, you will not miss it. That is luxury. Not missing when it is not available. When it is available, thoroughly enjoying it wholeheartedly is luxury. Suppose, isn't it? We have to differentiate luxury from need. What is need? Need is that which we do not recognize at all when we have it, and we desperately miss it when we don't have it. Okay. So that which is not recognized when it is, and that which is desperately missed when it is not, is the need. So luxury is that which is enjoyed thoroughly, wholeheartedly when it is, and which is not missed when it is not. Therefore, wise person has luxury, no needs. Yes, God, what now? That why? Because has that vision, isn't it? Therefore, he is tattvataha na chalati. Tattvataha na chalati means, in fact, that itself is samadhi, isn't it? Samadhi means what? In all situations, this person does not deviate from the truth. Which means he has objectivity. Does not forget his swarupam being what it is. That is why it means it is like an actor. For him the whole life is a drama. Clear, is very clear. The world is a stage. Whole life is a drama, and he knows he goes to the stage of life, stage, and he enacts his roles objectively. And how every actor, the best actors, always go to the stage, knowing very well, I'm not the role. Definitely, I'm not the role I'm playing on the stage. I have come here purposely to play this role, to make money, to make others happy, to live, earn my living, okay, to settle my accounts. I'm here, but I am not the role I'm playing on the stage. I may be playing the role of a king, I'm definitely not the king. He knows. I'm playing the role of a beggar, I'm definitely not the beggar. It means I am different from the role I am playing here. He knows very well. That is why he is able, because of his objectivity, he makes the best actor. Suppose by mistake, this person, everybody is clapping because it's so natural, his acting is so natural. Forgetfully he gets engrossed, he really mistakes himself as the role he plays, and something what sort of madness, you understand. And this person does not go out of the stage for the next scene to be set ready. Then people have to drag him to the green room and make him remove all his beggar clothes and tell him, come on, you have come here to play the role of a beggar. You are not really a beggar. They have to remind him. That reminding him is what? Nididhyasana. Again, which means being taken to the green room is what now? Taking the mind back to what? Shravanam. If the Shravanam is not enough, again make him listen more and then help him to be contemplative. only then samadhi will work, isn't it? Therefore, this is atyantikam sukham. Here what now? This person is so absorbed, tattvataha na chalati. In spite of all the situations also, in all the situations also, he remains. This is called, what actually speaking, this is called sahaja samadhi. You know what is sahaja samadhi? Sahaja samadhi means in all the situations also being objective, not internalizing situations, being one's own self, remaining steadfast in the vision of the truth. Called remaining steadfast in the vision of the truth, one's own self, isn't it? It's called in all situations. Okay, so here you can say, what is the fourth feature here? Tattvataha nischalanam, means not deviating from the truth of oneself, remaining steadfast in the vision of one's own self. Tattvataha nischalanam, tattvanishta or sthita prajna. That is the 21st verse. So here we have seen now 4 features as 4 definitions. Let us go to the next one now. Yam labdhva cha param labham, yam labdhva cha param labham, manyate nadhikam tataha, manyate nadhikam tataha. Yasmin sthito na dukkhena, yasmin sthito na dukkhena, gurunapi vichalyate, gurunapi vichalyate. So here, yam labdhva aparam labham adhikam na manyate tataha. So now remaining absorbed in Atma Swarupam, having taken ownership of the fullness as one's Swarupam, one's nature, happiness also as one's own Swarupam, this person who has the sense of fulfillment, isn't it? Having accomplished the sense of fulfillment, here anyam aparam labham adhikam na manyate. He does not consider any other gain to be greater than this attainment of the knowledge of one's own Swarupam. Why? Because the self-knowledge has blessed him with what? Has helped him. He is reveling in fullness, because fullness is his own Swarupam. There is no greater luxury than reveling in fullness. You already seen. There is no, in fact, not greater luxury. There is no luxury other than reveling in fullness, reveling in knowledge of one's own self, the truth of oneself. Therefore, if there is no luxury at all than reveling in the knowledge of one's own self, there is no greater luxury than reveling in the vision, the fullness born of the understanding of one's own self. Then is there any other gain? So he says there is no gain which is, there is no greater gain. Adhikam aparam labham adhikam na manyate. He does not consider any other gain as greater than this reveling in the luxury of knowledge, isn't it? So he says, adhikam labham nadikam, there's aparam labham adhikam na manyate. So having attained this, recognized this. Here attainment is only what? Recognition. Having recognized the limitless happiness as one's own swarupam. Having recognized fullness as one's swarupam. And for him, there's nothing else to be attained in fact. Therefore, there's no gain which is greater than this knowledge. Bigger than this knowledge. Yasmin sthitaha dukkhena guruna api dukkhena na vichalyate. So how can we say this accomplishment of self-knowledge is the accomplishment of self-knowledge, then thereby reveling in fullness as a result of this self-knowledge, or taking ownership of happiness and one's own swarupam as the result of knowledge, is the greatest of the gains. There's no greater gain than that. Nothing else for him is, isn't it? Greater means. How can we say that? Because no other gain, in gaining nothing else other than this, will one's dukkham, sorrow will resolve for good. Why? This is the greatest of the gains. Self-knowledge is the greatest of the accomplishments, exalted of all the ends, all the accomplishments, absolute end, Jnanam param, we always say, isn't it? Self-knowledge. It's not simply self-knowledge. So it is the assimilated, ascertained, doubt-free, ever remembered, unforgettable knowledge of one's own self being pure consciousness, which is free from all limitations, which is of the nature of fullness, happiness, limitlessness. This reveling in the knowledge is the luxury. There's no greater luxury, there's no greater gain also. Why? Because it is the gain, the attainment of this knowledge alone will put an end to what now? The sorrow. Because sorrow will resolve for good only in this knowledge. Therefore, it is the greatest of the accomplishments, exalted of the most exalted of all the ends. Now he says, Yasmin sthitaha guruna api dukkhena na vichalyate, means afterwards, no situation, isn't it? No situation, the worst of the situations, most pain-causing situation. Worst of the situations, most pain-causing situation also. Periya dukkham, guruna api dukkhena, not even all small petty things cannot even go near him. Even the worst of the pain cannot shake him. Okay? Na vichalyate means he is not moved, shaken by any worst of the painful situation. Which means, yes means sthitaha. Nothing can shake him. Why? Because any problem, there's no problem at all for him. The problems are there, the problems are not there for him. Isn't it? The wise person is not happy because of the problemlessness. The wise person is happy amidst problems. Okay? That's what now. Gurunapi dukkhena na vichalyate. There's nothing which can shake him. If something shakes you, there is no nirvikalpaka samadhi. It means there is no absorption. Absorption means we think, that's why we should not mistake. I'm going to explain later on what exactly is in Dhyasana. We're going to see that later on. still more to understand, but it's only definitions,
Yeah.
different features. Is there anything which is recognizable for you? Is there anything which is greater something? Is there anything which is exciting for you? Is iPhone 6? No, you're a baby then. It means what? Now, is anything? Something is exciting for you, isn't it? Going for a cruise is exciting for you means all kids understand, still you're all babies. Babies, no, but 70-year-old 80-year-old babies. Which means, because there's no aparam, labham, adhikam na manyate. No other gain is greater than this knowledge. Nothing else is, there's no greater luxury than reveling in knowledge. And whatever is situation, tattva nishthaha means what? Tattvataha na chalati. In all the situations also, this person, that does not, because the is not really shaken. That's what is. Is all what is mental absorption? Absorption means not that once you get stuck and this person doesn't even move or anything. Not like that. Because repeated dwelling will help. That's what it says. Yasmin sthitaha guruna api dukkhena na vichalyate. Whatever pain, physical pain happens also. Suppose even the death happens, or physically gets one wounded. Whatever happens to the physical body, whatever happens to anything else also, what now? This person is not shaken. There's nothing worse. Now there's no than death, isn't it? For the physical body. Whatever happens, guruna api dukkhena na vichalyate. Therefore, we can say the next definition is what? The sixth one is given in the 22nd verse. What is this? Atyantika, you can say dukkha nivrittihi. See, sukham first we said, no? Atyantikam sukham is one definition. Here, dukkha nivrittihi. No, freedom from sorrow for good. Which means the total freedom from sorrow. Isn't it? Absolute freedom from sorrow. Or atyantikam dukkha nivrittihi means then no situation will afterwards will really move this person. Which means this person will be absolutely mature, which means he understands the nature of the anatma. He understands how anatma is of the nature of undergoing changes, etc. Therefore, something is a fact for him. The person who understands the nature, understands the fact as a fact, who can accept the fact as a fact, then is a mature. Nothing can shake him. Nothing can shake him. It's all a question of understanding. That's why the grief itself, Krishna says what now? The grief itself is possible only for an ajnani. That's why the very opening verse of the 2nd chapter, the very first verse, Krishna begins his teaching saying what? Panditaha na anushochanti. Why does he say that? Panditaha na anushochanti. And he also tells Arjuna, no, Prajnavadamscha bhashase, Arjuna, you speak like a wise person, but you are not wise. You very lamenting, isn't it? Is enough for me to understand that you are not wise. Where there is wisdom, there cannot be grief. Wisdom and grief cannot go together. The grief itself is expression of lack of wisdom. Lack of wisdom means what? non-acceptance of immaturity. What is immaturity? Non-acceptance of the facts. Non-acceptance of facts implies what? Non-assimilation, non-understanding of the facts as facts. And this wise person knows the nature of the anatma. And this wise person knows very well what? I am Atma. There is no anatma outside of me. I am not anatma, I am Atma. What is that Atma? And I itself am Atma, which is of the nature of consciousness, which doesn't begin, doesn't end, doesn't undergo changes, which is there always, which is of the nature of fullness and happiness, which is free from all limitations. And it's not simply mechanically saying, isn't it? That is why even there are so many verses which reveal the nature of the Atma, and which is meant for contemplation, like Nirvana Shatkam, like Shiva Kevaloham, no? Shivahaham, Shivahaham. Those verses are not for singing, not for simply reciting or chanting. Whenever we know, they're meant for understanding. When we say that, no, Chidananda Rupaha Shivaha Aham Shivaha Aham, Chit means what? Ananda means what? How Chidananda Rupaha Aham Shivaha means you have to see the meaning of those words. So understanding the meaning of those words, seeing the meaning of those words as one's own real nature is what? Contemplation. They're meant for contemplation, not for simply singing and reciting with the fusion, as a fusion music, isn't it? It's okay. Still you can enjoy that. I'm not saying, but that won't help. Therefore, what is the sixth feature? Dukkha nivrittihi is the sixth feature, sixth definition. The seventh one comes in the next 23rd verse. Let me read it quickly. Tam vidya dukkha sanyoga, tam vidya dukkha sanyoga, viyogam yoga samhitam, viyogam yoga samhitam, sanischayena yoktavyah, sanischayena yoktavyah, yogo nirvinna chetasa, yogo nirvinna chetasa. Actually, tam yogam, no, may you understand that. What is it here? Here the seventh feature is given here, a seventh definition. Dukkha sanyoga viyogaha. Dukkha sanyoga viyogaha means, viyogaha means dissociation, separation. Sanyoga means association, isn't it? So, dissociation from the association with sorrow. Dissociation from the association with sorrow is what? Dukkha sanyoga viyogaha. See, for this person, tam vidyat, may you understand, Arjuna, that yogam, that mental absorption, the samadhi, to be what? Dissociation from association with sorrow. Means then there is no such thing called sorrow at all. Afterwards, already we have seen what? No, association. Atma, I am Atma means, Atma is what? Consciousness. Does consciousness have sorrow, grief? Isn't it? Understanding the Swarupam, Atma being free from dukkham, and taking ownership of that Atma, the consciousness as the Swarupam of oneself, results in what? It's called dukkha Sanyoga Viyogaha is the next feature. Understand? I think we will continue tomorrow because I need to explain this. Therefore, what should we do? Krishna ends in this verse. Therefore, one should definitely be contemplative. See, contemplation is very, very important. Okay? This practice of Ashtanga Yoga is important. Means what? This 8-limbed discipline has to be practiced. It should culminate in also what? Culminate in the Nirvikalpaka Samadhi, which means the object of when the Dhyanam comes after the 5 disciplines, when the 6th discipline comes, we should remember the 6, 7, 8, isn't it? Dharana Dhyana Samadhi comes, there from object of meditation is what? Atma. First 5 have to be practiced to discipline the mind, to help to make the mind distrained, to withdraw the mind from other things, to be able to withdraw the attention from other things. Other 5 have to be practiced. After withdrawing the attention, where to place attention? Withdrawn mind must be placed somewhere. Where should it be placed? Not any other object. Atma Swarupam. That is where the yoga philosophy, the person of yoga philosophy or the Vedanta student, they differ. The Vedanta student, after the 5th discipline, when the Dharanam comes, he has already done Shravanam, he knows what Atma is, he knows where his attention has to be focused and where it should be retained, where he should remain absorbed. So the object of meditation is very important. What makes the Nirvikalpaka Samadhi Jnana Nishtha, and what makes Nirvikalpaka Samadhi a mere time-bound experience, blissful experience, but still it is time-bound, it is not moksha. Okay, that will continue tomorrow. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.